Hi, my name is Kevin McDonald, and I'm declaring my independence. Independence from what? Why, negative thoughts and energy, of course. Chief among them, hate, division, and fear. You see, I know that we're all one, and together we can solve any problem, save our planet and each other. Please, join me as we come together as one and choose a better way to be. So now, let's begin with my independence report. And welcome to my Independence Report. It's Friday here in the Great Northwest, and it's going to be hot this weekend. And so we're looking forward to having a real good time. And you got a dog in the background, Caleb, is barking, so you're going to need to put yourself on mute for a little bit. No?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Well, somebody's barking.
Not mine.
Not here. It's quiet.
In any event, Allyson Roberts is with us. She is a transformational coach. We've had her on the show before. Her story is nothing short of amazing. So what I would encourage you to do is go back and listen to the original podcast that we did together. It was nothing short of a miracle, and she has done some remarkable things in her life. And so with that, Allyson, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
I'm cooler than you are.
Yes, you are. By the time this afternoon comes, because I'm doing 4 podcasts in a row, and by the time this afternoon comes, I'll be a little bit of a mess. But that's all right. I love doing this, and I love talking to you, and I love talking to people about stuff. And you're a transformational coach. What does that mean exactly?
I take the principles of cognitive behavioral therapy and I apply them to the process of mindset. And then I also incorporate spirituality because we are spiritual beings living a human experience. And I think that if we're all in the science, then we are giving ourselves, paying ourselves a huge disservice. So I use a process called personalized science, and it is fun and it works and it's exciting.
When you say personalized science, what exactly do you mean?
Personalized science is the combination of looking at your past and healing it and looking into your future and understanding that the person that you are today is not going to get you where it is that you want to go if you're carrying all of your stuff around that's causing you to be down.
I wanted to ask a little bit about that because when you are a little bit longer in the tooth like I am, you don't remember a lot necessarily of what happened when you were a kid, but it still affects you, doesn't it?
It does. And you the thing about it is, Kevin, is that our reptilian brain, our lower brain, its job is to keep us alive. And so it remembers everything. It remembers our whole existence from the time of conception. We may not remember it in our frontal cortex and our conscious brain, but our reptilian brain stores everything. So we may think we don't remember, but we remember.
It's interesting. So if you're like me and you come across a situation and something just automatically pops into your head, is that kind of your programming from before?
Yes. Yes.
How do you fix that?
You fix it by, first of all, most people are terrified to turn around and look at their past. There's, I don't want to go back there. I already lived back. I'm not going to relive all that stuff, Allyson. I'm not going to do it. You can't make me. And that's a form of running from our pain. And when we turn around and we look at the experience of who we are, and we start to understand that, like, wow, I feel awful most of the time. Where is that coming from? What? It's not just Guys, you don't feel awful just because. And you don't feel awful because someone else is making you feel awful. You feel awful because you're making yourself feel awful because of what you're thinking and how that's making you feel. So cognitive behavior is science. Cognitive behavior, Kevin and Kayla, is this. An outside circumstance happens. You immediately have anywhere from 700 to 20,000 thoughts about one thing. Yeah.
20,000 thoughts? I didn't know I was that talented.
That's a Gemini, though, I think.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, about one thing. And then you have all the feelings that come up from all of your thoughts. And then we behave in a certain way because of what we are thinking and feeling, which is a belief system. And then we get an outcome. That is cognitive behavior. And until you learn a new way to think about a circumstance so that it creates a new feeling, so that you act a different way, that you actually believe, that an action that's inspired, an action that's real, not just going to the gym because you got to lose 10 pounds, but going to the gym because you love it and it's awesome. I'm going to build some muscle. It's going to feel great. That's cognitive behavior.
And that's something that you can create, even though, like Kayla, I know that your background is a little bit more horrific than mine was when I was growing up. Mine was kind of just a pain, but yours was a lot more horrific. Do you feel like you still have got things that Allyson can help you with?
Oh, there's probably a lot of things that a lot of people can help me with in life. Let's be real, Kevin. But
is there anything you want to share?
A lot of these steps, I can honestly say that have stemmed with, my father in my past. Over the past year, I've learned to overcome it. There are still, my anger outbursts, me calling my sister out and being so harsh on her and telling her she's, not doing something right as being a parent, when in reality, I needed to look at my own advice and take that criticism and take it in for myself. I live with it as an everyday struggle. I'm probably the hardest person on myself as a person could probably be. And moving forward, I would honestly say it's more of stop, let it go, and move forward. So there's a lot of what ifs, really. So there's a lot of help that she can help me with, Kevin.
Yeah, because it's so much more than everyone wants to let it go. I mean, there's a whole Disney movie, let it go, let it go. Everybody wants to let it go. But no one wants to hold on to it and examine it first and figure it out first and then let it go. And that's what I teach people to do. I tell people my coaching programs are not for the weak and they're not for the sissies. I have had people that have had drug addiction and they've stripped and they've beaten their kids and they have these pasts that they're just like, oh, Allyson, you can't help me and I'm not worth being helped anyway. And I think that all of that is a bunch of garbage. Everyone is worth helping. And when people can say, I'll let it go after, like letting it go should be the very last thing that people are focused on. So, you have outbursts with your sister. You don't have outbursts with your sister because you're a horrible person. You don't have outbursts with your sister because she's a horrible person. And you don't have outbursts with your sister because your dad's a horrible person. You have outbursts with your sister because growing up, your reptilian brain developed stories around your sister that you still on some level believe. And when you get triggered, all of those beliefs come to the surface. And so if you worked with me, you and I would have to figure out, and there are beliefs, Kayla, that you don't even know you have. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. It's because the reptilian brain is subconscious. So I would beat up on you a little bit with love and compassion. And then we would get to the bottom of some core beliefs that you have about your sister. Maybe a core belief that you, and I'm not saying this, it's just purely examples, guys. But maybe one of your core beliefs is that she had it easier than you. And you're like, well, Allyson, I don't believe that. And then we would start working through some scenarios. And then inevitably my clients end up doing this. Holy, holy, holy. I did not know that I believed that, but my gosh, that makes so much sense. And then it's like, but she didn't have it easier. Exactly. And then your whole mindset just boom, shifts. It's incredible.
I have a question for you, because you said you work with all kinds of people, and you've worked with people that have been strippers. Is that did I hear you right?
Yep.
In my podcasting career, I've always wanted to have a stripper on to ask why and what would motivate them to do that. Yeah. I realize there's the short-term money thing, but it takes a certain type of lack of self-respect. Am I close in that, or is that something that some people just don't think that it's a problem?
It's never about the money. Oh, and really? That's about everything in life. It's never about the money. It's never about the money, ever. That's one of the big things I teach from my stages is we have so many stories around money. It's never about the money. So every single exotic dancer / stripper that I've ever worked with, they all say that they were talked into it by a friend, because misery loves company. So one of their friends who has really low self-esteem comes to them at one of their lowest points in their life, and they're like, please come and do this thing with me. I don't want to do it by myself. They don't want to disappoint their friend. And they don't have any self-esteem to begin with anyway. And so they go to the club and they strip and they feel horrible. And then they already feel horrible about themselves. As soon as they strip, their reptilian brain starts sending signals to them like, see, I told you didn't have any self-worth. See, I told you wouldn't amount to anything. See, I told you that all you're good for is sex. See, I told you that men only want you for your body. The reptilian brain isn't saying that out loud, because if it did, we would be like, oh, gosh, this makes so much sense. I'll just fix it now. It comes in feelings of shame and guilt and just low vibrational energy. And so, and then if they make $2,000 or $3,000 or $800 or whatever amount of money it is that they've never made before in their whole life, it's just further proof and further evidence that their reptilian brain has to say, see, this is all you're worth.
And then the money is so good that they continue to do it, because going back to being a waitress at Denny's and making $100 a day or making $2,000 a day, they then rationalize why they do it, because $2,000 is worth the money. Is that kind of how that continues?
Well, it continues more from, yes, that is part of it. That is part of it. Like, they were living in, situations and circumstances where maybe they couldn't feed their kid. Now they can feed their kid. Now they can buy their kid tennis shoes and school supplies. Maybe they can move from an area where there's a lot of crime to an area where there's not as much crime. So yes, they're reaping the benefits of the money, but what keeps them going up on that stage and taking their clothes off is the lack of self-worth and self-esteem.
And is it also part of it's the only way they feel like they can get attention, because they don't feel like that has nothing to do with it. It's just yeah.
Yeah.
So I see it's so far out of my realm of understanding that I wonder how people are able to justify doing stuff like that when they know it's not healthy for them.
Well, and every single dancer that I've ever worked with, I've worked with 5, like extensively, and every single one of them has had an abusive boyfriend.
Oh,
so they all had an abusive boyfriend who kind of became like their pimp. And even when they want to quit, he's in the background saying, "You're not quitting. Like, we haven't lived this great in like forever." And so he's sitting at home watching, Judge Judy all day, and she's on stage, feeding into this horrible shame and guilt that she's already feeling. And then she walks in the door and she hands him $2,000. So that's happened with every single dancer I've ever worked with.
So they're manipulated by their boyfriend into doing it and abused by him.
All of them abused.
That it is so sad that there are so many young women that even contemplate going down that road, because it can be a lifelong problem for them, can't it? Until you get involved with them.
Yeah, but the other thing too is that I wish more men would do this work.
Yeah.
This is a true story. I have served, gosh, I don't know, 5,000 to 7,000. My assistant and I can't get quite the number, but that's people that I've touched like this. That doesn't include people from live stages and podcasts and all that. So it's probably up in the, I don't know, 15, 20,000 people. I can count on 2 hands the number of men who've come to me and said, "I want to work with you."
Why are we so? Is it because all of us are still dragging our knuckles on the ground as we walk, and we're too proud, and we've got too much ego? Why are men so difficult to work with, or why don't they come to you?
I feel like it's fear. I love men. Men are amazing. And especially the men who finally decide that they need and want the work. Those men especially, like, they far surpass the women as far as like rapid success, because men approach it from a logical place, and they're working out their emotion at the same time, but they approach it from a really logical place of like, okay, cognitive behavior, give me the science, I'm on it, I'm with it, I'll do it. Where women is like, and so we have to get through like the layers and layers and layers and layers of emotion, and like, no one's ever gonna love me, and we have to I have to get them to a place of just breathing first, like, you are worthy. Men come to the table feeling pretty worthy, and that can be a challenge.
I found that in the work that I do with this podcast, because a lot of it has to do with spirituality and positive thinking and living our lives a little bit better and stuff, I would guess that my audience is probably 75 to 80% women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we're not talking about sports. We're talking about living real life. And a lot of guys don't want to get into that because they're already just working, and they want to go to the bar on the weekends, and they've got their set routine, but they're not interested in self-improvement necessarily. At least that's been my experience. Is that kind of true?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that men, when a woman has a problem, she picks up the phone and she calls another woman, and and we, women together, we hold space for the feminine and the goddess energy, which is, how do we create something that's better? Because we bring the creation into the world, and so it's in our DNA to be like, something's wrong, let's fix it. Men want to fix everything. They want to fix us included, instead of the thing that I run into the most, Kevin, is that when a man comes to me who finally has listened to enough of these podcasts and has read, enough books, or maybe stumbled across some movie that like made sense to him, and all of a sudden he's like, wow. Usually the click that they've had is that politics isn't the answer. Most men that come to me, they have the house, they have the car, they have the wife, they have 2.5 kids, they have the career, they have the life insurance. They look fantastic on paper, but inside they are just feeling like garbage. And they're finally ready to be like, I'm really kind of not the best husband. I'm really like, if I'm really honest, I don't give my kids the time of day. Like, if I'm really honest, I do what I have to do to get through my day. And it's not their fault. Boys are trained to do what you got to do to get through the day. Boys are told not to cry. Boys are told to suck it up. Boys are told that they pay for the dates. Boys are told that they provide, that they're the ones who bring home the bacon. So then women, we're told, to shut up and put up.
Yeah. That's so true. That's so dysfunctional for all. One of the things that really I wish were different is that I, as a guy, if I have a really big issue, a really big problem, I don't feel like I can go to another guy.
Right.
Because I feel like we were trained from, I was always trained to be in competition with another man.
Mm-hmm.
How much did I make more than he? How bigger was my house than him? How much prettier was my wife? How better were my kids? All of those things. And so to sit and have a real conversation with a guy, I can't do it. And that's it very well. I have those conversations with women because I just make sure that we take the sexual component off the table, so we don't have to worry about that, so that we can communicate at a real level, because I can communicate better with a female than I can with a man. Does that make me dysfunctional?
No, it doesn't make you dysfunctional. And here's the thing. So women, we are taught when we're little girls that we're going to be rescued by a prince, that someday our prince will come. Cinderella, Snow White, Little Mermaid, Pocahontas, it goes on and on and on and on and on. Someday our prince will come. And then when we get into corporate America, we are told to act like the boys because it's a boys club.
Yep.
And so then we don't know what the hell to do when it comes to men. We don't know if you're going to rescue us or if we have to be just like you so that we can belong in the circle. And what it does is it creates a very confusing environment for men as well, because when we stand in our power and we become seen and heard, most men can't deal with it because they've never been taught how to deal with it.
Right.
And yet when we become meek and doormats, men don't respect us and don't want to have anything to do with us. And so it becomes this whole war between the sexes, and men need to learn how to tap more into their feminine side, because we all have a feminine and a masculine side. Women, we're driven to be masculine. Like get your own place. That's masculine energy. Buy your own car. That's masculine energy. Climb up the ladder of corporate America. That's masculine energy. And so we're out in the workforce and we're being like men. And then we come home and we're doing laundry and we're cleaning the house and we're taking the kids to soccer practice and we're making sure that there's food on the table and we're making sure that our man is taken care of sexually so he doesn't go and have an affair. And so we become these creatures that are exhausted and worn out and angry and resentful. And it's not men's fault, but we blame the man. But it's really not the man's fault, because men are not taught how to be with us. They're taught how to take care of us, and we don't need to be taken care of. But they're only taught how to take care of us with their wallet and not with their heart. And it becomes a place of just, Kayla's like, Allison's blowing my mind. It becomes this really complicated place at home where people don't know what the hell to do.
I concur 100%, because we don't know how to, and when we have in my marriage, which ended a long time ago, we had a problem with communication because she refused to communicate at a deeper level than superficially, because she didn't want to I don't want to get involved with that. Or if we would have an argument, the next day nothing would be said, because it was that was yesterday, and it was, but it still festered and it was still there. And so we didn't communicate on a heart-to-heart level. I don't think our entire marriage, I don't think we ever did that. I tried, God knows I tried to get her to do that, but she refused. She didn't feel comfortable with it. And because of her upbringing and how her mom and dad reacted to each other, and that's how they did it, was like a superficial relationship. If I were working with you, how would you have suggested that I get her to deal with me on more of a heart level?
So it all comes down to cognition, because the first thing is that the way that we communicate is not because of anyone else. So I would make you see, like, the thought model that I use is CTFAR: circumstance, thought, feeling, action, result. So I would sit down with you, Kevin, and I would say, okay, the circumstance is your wife. And then what are all your thoughts about her? Whew, man, she's impossible. She won't talk to me. She shuts down. She stonewalls me. Her parents ruined her. We're never going to be able to talk. We're never going to be able to have this. We're never going to be able to have any of that. And I would say, well, Kevin, how does that make you feel? It pisses me off. I'm sad. It breaks my heart. I'm afraid. I'm afraid I'm going to lose her. I'm afraid our marriage is going to end. And then I would say, okay, well, how are you showing up? Because that's the action line. How do you act with her? And you would be like, wow, well, that's a great question. I don't really know, because your reptilian brain doesn't want you to know how you act with her. Because if you know how you act with her, then you see yourself, and the reptilian brain doesn't want you to see yourself. It only wants you to see how your wife acts. So it would take us probably about 3 or 4 weeks before you could really get really honest. Like, wow, I'm showing up a complete asshole.
Oh, me? No, not me.
And no wonder she doesn't want to have a conversation with me. I'm showing up defensive. I'm showing up already angry. I'm showing up expecting that our conversations aren't going to go anywhere. I'm expecting that she's going to get mad. I'm expecting that she's going to shut down. And so we come into a relationship with an energy. And our energy goes before us. Even Jesus talks about this in the Bible. He's like, listen, you get where you're going before you're ever there. And you don't have to be a Christian to understand that. It's like we are all energy, and we have this big energy bubble that surrounds us. And so the outermost part of your energy shows up in a conversation way before you show up. So your wife had the same energy. So she was showing up with her energy, and you were showing up with your energy. And the result is, well, you're divorced. So what I would do is I would say, Kevin, what result do you want with your wife? I want to get along with her. I want us to have, I want us to be close. I want us to have this heart connection. Okay. How does that make you feel? Amazing, fantastic, relieved, awesome. Okay, so what are some thoughts that you have to think about your wife that you believe, that make you feel amazing and heart connected to her? She's a good person. I fell in love with her the second I saw her, all the things. And then I would say, okay, well, you've got to show up from that energy. And inevitably what happens is, if you were working with me, you would start to have conversations with her. You can't say her name, but you would start to have conversations with her where you would be authentically different. And then, as science shows us, when we throw a rock in the water must ripple. It doesn't have a choice. The water can't be like, oh, I'm not going to ripple with that rock today. Oh, I'm just going to sit over here and not. No, it has to ripple. That is science. So then your wife would either pull away from you even more because she's like, you're weird, man. This is different. I don't get it. I don't understand what's going on. Or she might be like, wow, Kevin, I don't know what you're doing, but I hear you and I feel heard and I see you and I feel seen. So, okay, now I'm available for this conversation now.
I just want to know when you came over to my house, because I didn't think that we'd met before, but apparently we did, because you just described to a friggin' T how it all went down, and then it ended up, she sought love and friendship and compliance somewhere else, and which was, and those things happen when you get to that point. But that is right on, because you were in my house somewhere. You're in my mind too, by the way. By the way, we're talking with Allyson Roberts. And I want to segue into, you've got this cool thing coming up in the fall. Can we talk about that?
Yes, I'm so excited. So everything that I just explained to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, you lived in my house. You live in my head. I am going to be teaching all of this from a live stage now that we are vaccinated, most of us, and and even if you're not vaccinated, I am, so I can be around you. I am having a live, and the event is happening the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of October in Atlanta, Georgia. But I opened up virtual seats as well, and those are starting to sell like hotcakes. People are like, I don't want to travel, but I want to be there. So there's a virtual option as well. But it is called Behind the Power. And the reason that I named it Behind the Power is because I also have a book coming out in September that's called Behind the Power. And
now, there's a coincidence.
Yeah. Or as my grandfather would say, a coinkadink.
Yep, yes, indeed.
So I selected 13 amazing women who I've been working with for the past year, who have come to understand my message, which is that behind our power is our greatest pain. And that really is true. Our greatest pain becomes our absolute greatest power. And I teach it, I speak to it. That's what I'm going to be. I've just got chills. I get chills every time I say it. It's what I'm going to be teaching from stage all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, and then half the day Friday. We have some cool things going on at the event besides just a workshop. So we have 2 cocktail hours, Wednesday night and Thursday night. And I'm going to be giving intuitive guidance during those cocktail hours. So you can grab your drink and come back upstairs and sit back down in the auditorium, and I will be picking people to give guidance to. And all during the day, both days, Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be coaching, hot seat coaching from the stage, and the women are going to be sharing their stories during our lunch hours. And it's just going to be amazing and beautiful and life-changing for those who are ready to do the work.
Because you will work with somebody, but you do demand, and honestly, every person that I've worked with that is really successful and does a really nice job, you ask people to do the work. You don't just tell people what to do. You ask people to do the work and be part of it. And that's necessary, isn't it?
Yeah. And when you're in my program, a lot of coaches are cheerleaders. I am not. You can go down the street and buy somebody a megaphone and some pom-poms to spell your name out and tell you how great you are. I want you to know how great you are from the inside of you, not from the outside of you. Because if it comes from the inside of you, it is going to last forever. And I want people's changes to last forever. Because when they last forever, I mean, maybe I'm selfish, but I don't want you to change just for you. I want people to change for the world that we live in. We all need to wake up. We all need to start understanding that we are innately good and that we are innately powerful. And when we start to do that and we come together, we can take our international borders down. We can take politics off the table. We can get rid of religion. We can do all of those things because we are now one. We're not separate people having separate experiences. We can have different cultures without borders. We can have different religions without naming them things and saying, oh, you belong to it and you don't belong to it because you didn't go through the ritual. You don't have ashes on your forehead. You don't have this or that. I'm really passionate about it. So this work, you see, when you join my programs, you see me on Monday in a group, you see me on Thursday in a group, and then you work with me one-on-one, because if you're not working with me one-on-one, then you're not doing the work.
Awesome. That is so true. Are you familiar with and I was just struck by when you said that we are all one, which is, I firmly believe that. And that if we believe that we were all one and that we were accepting each other as our brothers and sisters and that we're all one, that the entire world would change. Are you familiar with the Neil Donald Walsh?
Yes, I've met him in person.
I did an interview with him years ago, and he talked about the 10 Commandments, which he called the 10 Commitments. And it was like the biggest change in how somebody viewed the 10 Commandments ever, or at least in the last 500 years, according to a theologian, because he was talking about exactly what you were just talking about, that when you have a relationship with the divine, you no longer want to steal. When you have a relationship with the divine, you no longer want to kill anybody. You don't want to take anybody else's wife. You want to be a good human, a good person. And what you're working to do is to get people to do that, to go there, to be to realize who they really are, so that they don't have to be negative anymore. They don't have to be defensive, and they don't have to have hate and fear in their heart, right?
Yes, and that's the spiritual side of the personalized science. But I also truly believe in my soul that when we love ourselves, we don't steal. When we love ourselves, we don't murder. When we love ourselves, we don't commit adultery. When we love ourselves, we're not jealous of our neighbor. When we love ourselves, we don't beat our kids. When we love ourselves, yes, we make mistakes, and sometimes we make big ones, but we won't commit sins against ourselves or other people to the extent of destroying our lives and destroying our soul. Because when we love ourselves, we do love everything. You start to love everything and everyone. It doesn't mean that you agree with what they're doing. If someone is murdering people of color, I'm not going to have a love fest for them. The love comes from like that murderer has a lot of pain and they're behaving this way because they're damaged. And I also want them punished so that it stops.
But don't you at the same time think, I wish I could have got to them before?
I think that all the time about a lot of things. Yeah.
If I could have gotten to them before, they could have changed the paradigm, and they never would have done what they did.
Yeah, and with my own self, looking back on my own life, the times that I've strayed and gone down really, really dark paths, like, wow, where was I? What happened where I just got lost? And we get lost when our trauma takes over our heart. That's when we get lost. And I've had it happen quite a few times where I've made mistakes, big ones. But I also had the skills to come back from those mistakes. And the more you practice the skills, the fewer mistakes that you make. And the fewer mistakes that you make, the more confidence you have. And the more confidence you have, the more love you have. And it just builds and builds and builds on itself.
I know your story. And your story, from my perspective, a lot of what happened to you by other people. There was a couple of, okay, so you got pregnant. Well, that happens. It happens to a lot of folks. But it was the response of other people. Thank God for that preacher, or for the professor and his wife. But for a lot of other people, it's just they put that on you, locked you out of the house, made you sleep in a Volkswagen. Still don't know how you did that. That was pretty amazing, and stuff. Do you, looking back on that now, do you blame those people? Have you forgiven them?
I don't blame them at all. Forgiveness is a choice. It's not a feeling. And for a long time, I was waiting for that feeling to come to me where I could be like, I just wish, I could forgive them. And then the deeper that I stepped into the cognitive process, I realized that, each of them goes in the circumstance line, because that's what they are. They are the circumstance. And then the thought is, I choose to forgive them. It's a thought. And how does it make me feel? A hell of a lot better than not forgiving them, And that's the belief, is that I choose to forgive them because it makes me feel better. So yes, I have forgiven them all. I don't have relationships with any of them, but I have forgiven all of them.
I can totally understand why you would not seek a relationship with them at this point, because you moved on, and you become a powerful person for humanity.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to say that to you, because you've also got a program that's coming up in the fall. It's called Behind the Power, and that's going to be the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Is that right? Of
Yeah.
October. I actually wrote that down right. I'm so proud of myself. And you're going to be you're going to have 13 women. How many people are? How many? What's the capacity? How many people can you do?
We can have 85 in person people. We are already up to 40, so we're halfway. We're halfway there.
Holy crap! Good job.
And we have an early bird special going on right now that is it's 50% off the in-person ticket, and then a few dollars off of the, I think it's like $30 off of the virtual ticket. That ends on the 30th of June. So if you're thinking about it and your reptilian brain's like, oh, you don't want to go, and you got to work through all of that, I'm just telling you that I'm not extending the early bird because I don't have to. My capacity for virtual tickets right now is at 500. And it's also, we're selling a lot of virtual tickets very, very quickly. So don't wait, because once it's sold out, it's sold out.
How will this become an annual event, do you think?
I think so. Yeah. I really don't make big decisions like this because, my goal for this live event is really to bring people together and teach them this process. And I think that when people are all together in a room, even if it's virtually all together, there's a synergy that happens.
Yes.
And I was called to do this live event at the end of last year when we still really didn't have vaccinations that were being distributed widely. And I heard go to the venue. It's at 3:30 Terminus. Go to the venue and book the space. And I was like, are you kidding? Really, God? Are you kidding me? What am I gonna have 4 people there? Come on, And I'm a big believer in that. When you get messages like that, if you don't obey the message, you're sending a huge message back to the universe of just like, I don't want any more messages from you. I've got this, and I don't want to live my life like that. So I listened, I obeyed, I called Terminus the very next day and was like, I want to book a live event. And they were like,
you want to do what?
Yeah, they were like, really? I was like, yeah, I want to book a live event. And they were like, all right, So here we are. It's happening.
The universe works in just a wonderfully mysterious way sometimes, and you're right. If you don't follow through, it's like, for me, the law of attraction. You state what you want, and then you work your butt off to get it done, and they'll support you in that. The other side will make stuff happen for you. Kayla, you've been sitting there minding your own business. Have you got anything you'd like to add?
I just really hope that people listen to this podcast today, because there's a lot of information that you have put out there that I think will help multiple individuals in multiple ways. So you're inspirational, and I appreciate you being here with us today. So
thank you. Thank you. And I strive to be inspirational and instructional, because inspiration sparks the flame, but it's the instruction that keeps the fire going. So I'm glad that I've inspired you, and I'm glad, and I hope and I pray that I inspire others. But really, guys, what I want to say to you is that the inspiration is not enough. The inspiration is not what changes us. The inspiration is what sparks us to want to change, but you've got to take the second step. You have to.
And that second step is?
Come to Behind the Power, or go to my website, AllysonRoberts.com. If you're listening and not watching, it's ALLYSON Roberts.com. And if you're curious about the event, the website for that, you can get to it from my website, but it's a lot easier to just go to BehindThePowerEvent.com. BehindThePowerEvent.com.
Now, when were coming up with the name, did you go on is one of the things that you did go on the internet to see if that name was available? Because I've done that. I did that with my Independence Report, and it was available, and I didn't think it would be. But it's so cool that you're able to put that together, and you've got the couple of websites. I predict that you're going to sell this thing out.
I do too. I mean, I feel it. I felt it the day that I was at Terminus, and 85 is the ticket number that the gentleman at Terminus was like, with COVID and everything else. And I feel like, you might be able to fill up, 85 seats, but the capacity is actually 140. And I was talking to one of my friends a couple of months ago, and she gets these intuitive hits, and she was like, I keep seeing the number like 14, and then I'll see 0 every time I think about you. And I was like, do you think it's 140? And she was like, yes, 140. What does that mean? And I just started laughing. So, but I mean, if it's 85, it's 85. If it's 40 that we have right now, it's 40 that we have right now. But I know that this message needs to get out to the world, and I'm not shy about sharing perspectives about husbands and wives and men and women and what society is, society has set us up to fail. That's why there's so many divorces. And then we get married again thinking it'll be better the second time, and that rate is actually higher than the first time. And then we get married a third time thinking it's going to be even better the third time. And it shows that we're actually right, because the rate of divorce on a third marriage is less than even on a first marriage or a second marriage. And the reason for that, though, is shame, because no one wants to get divorced a third time. So it's not because the marriage is necessarily better. It's because people don't want to be labeled a failure, and they don't want the shame of walking around with a third divorce, because 3 strikes, you're out. And that's a huge mindset. We do it in the legal field, we do it on the baseball field, and we do it in our relationship field. So I also want to encourage everyone that if they're in a third marriage and they're miserable, get out. Get out of your mindset, either get out of the marriage or get out of the mindset. But something has to change, because to live your life in a third marriage just because you don't want 3 strikes out is horrible. So I speak to that in Behind the Power event as well.
We've been talking with Allyson Roberts, and she's going to be on KKNW 1150 AM Sunday morning at 10 a.m. with me again, and we're looking forward to that. And that's a whole different audience, and that's throughout the greater Puget Sound area. And I'm hoping to inspire some people to work with you and to go to Behind the Power when we do that. Now, it's the end of the show, and I wanted to give you the opportunity to tell our audience anything that you'd like them to know before we close.
Yes. So if you go to my website and you sign up for my newsletter, you're going to get my other book that's an ebook, and it's called The Magic in You. So you really do not want to miss out on getting a free copy of The Magic in You. It will start to change your life immediately. And the other thing I want to tell you is that you're worth the work, man. You're worth the work. And it's scary. I know it's scary. I see you. I feel you. I get you. But to me, it's scarier to know that I'm, if I don't do the work, I'm going to be on my deathbed with a bunch of regrets. And so live your life backwards. Think about where you want to be in 30 years from now or 20 years from now, and do the work to get you there.
I've started using that mantra, live your life without regret, and to make sure that you show up every day of your life so that you, on your last day, whenever that day comes, and God, trust me, it will come, that you can just say, I did the best I could and I'm satisfied.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And mean it.
yes. Go to AllysonRoberts.com. Sign up for Behind the Power. It's this fall. You got some time to do it and to work it out. It's in Atlanta, Georgia. I'd love to go to Atlanta in the fall. The leaves are beautiful. It's a beautiful area.
Yes, gorgeous.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for being on the show, my dear. I will see you on Sunday.
See you on Sunday. Can't wait.
So hang out just a second. I got to do this. I'll be right back. Hey, and thanks for listening to this episode all the way to the end. Hey, pretty cool. Hey, don't forget to follow us so you can receive regular updates and new posts. And remember, take care of each other because each other's all we've got. See you next time on My Independence Report.